company. Mr. Murthy made a comment about the margins, how earlier they used to be 30% plus industry leading, and instead of improving to 37% plus on account of rupee depreciation, they actually dipped to 23.5% in September of 2013. How would you, react to that?
No, that is the reality. The margins did came down because the on-site salaries went up during that period. On-site went up for multiple reasons because people started staying longer on-site. Naturally, the cost escalation happened there. Number two, the role ratios had been very rich on-site. That also increased the cost. So over the period of years, when the on-site costs went up drastically, the margins did came down. That is some of the corrective measures Murthy put into place when he came back. They made the stay in on-site to be not more than 18 months, changed the role ratios, and took a lot of initiatives to reduce the costs on-site. That has started yielding some result, but it's a long way to go. I mean, over a period of time it will change. But don't forget, on-site is also a function of kind of business you do. More you do on the consulting space or the package implementation pace, I think the cost on-site could go up. So I think this all happens in a large company over a period of time. That is why every 4 or 5 years, a recession in the industry will be good because most of this will get addressed and cleaned up so that you start from a clean slate.
Mr. Pai, a quick question to you. Again, I will ask you to react on two things that Murthy said in the AGM. One was he seemed to come to the defense of the nomination committee because there have been several reports, and I'm sure you will be privy to that on how external CEO, a selection of an external CEO is something that is hindering employee morale, is something that is affecting the internal candidates that were interviewed. I want your comments on that. And secondly, Mr. Murthy spoke about how going forward there is going to be a stringent employee management process. To that effect, they in fact even have a software which they have developed in order to be able to assess employee performance, which will help them going forward. Your comments on these two important statements that Mr. Murthy had made during the AGM?
Well, first of all, having an external candidate once in a while is very good. Infosys has been an internal-driven company, and they had pretty good leaders. Except in the last 3 years, they have failed because of the founders-only policy and lack of empowerment of senior management. To me, the biggest challenge was lack of empowerment of senior managers. You appointed 3 people to the board, Bala, Ashok, and BG. You should have empowered them, allowed them to run the company, put all your strength behind them, and given high targets to them and told them the company is yours, please run, we'll support you. Instead of that, I don't think they were adequately empowered. They were frustrated, and they all left. And they're doing very well outside now. All 3 of them are doing extraordinarily well outside. They're extraordinary people. So empowerment is very important. So now when the senior management is gone, the only choice you are left is an external candidate. There are no internal candidates. And sadly, it appears as if these 3 people are responsible for what is wrong, and these 3 were not responsible for what is wrong. The responsibility was solely with the CEO, and the CEO continued despite not doing well. So I think, this is an issue, the founder, non-founder issue. It has come to an end. The founder Raj has come to an end. But this was a major issue for the last 5 years in the company. And now it has been solved. And hopefully, I think, we'll not see it in future. And as far as the employee assessment is concerned, Infosys had robust assessment. But only thing was the senior management in the company refused to take a call at some times on making it extremely robust. Because they left it to others to decide, and the system became quite lax. For example, there were a lot of people who were from the delivery side promoted to head sales, and they were not exactly qualified to head sales. And there were, I think, a lot of issues. So in future, the assessment has to be stronger, and people have to take tougher decisions. The metrics have to be clear. But for that, decision-making at the senior level is very important. We need a CEO who is going to say, this is what I want, this is what I'm going to empower you, this is what you should do, show me the results. You can't be halfway, and you can't centralize everything else. You cannot disempower people and then ask them to perform. So I think we need a new kind of a culture there, which is aggressive in the marketplace, which is outward looking, and which is empowering, so a new sense of energy will come. So I think having an outsider now is pretty good, and having stricter assessment processes with very clear objectives, I think will do wonders, because high performers will get rewarded. Very often we lost high performers because the people who are supposed to assess them did not make a differentiation for high performers to the low performers because they were very emotional driven. You have to become much less emotional driven, and further the tone at the top has to change and focus much more on performance.
Mr. Apte, we didn't see Vishal Sikka at the AGM. Would you think it's a missed opportunity that perhaps he should have come and maybe connected with the stakeholders?
Oh, absolutely. I think, from my perspective, the AGM was somewhat a disappointment. And maybe that happened because they had two back-to-back events and the whole thunder was stolen in CEO announcement time. But I think, given that they talked primarily 30,000 feet high during CEO announcement, I think this was a great opportunity for new CEO and new leadership at Infosys to talk to their shareholders, talk to the world at large. It's also a great opportunity for them to connect with very large suite of employees through a public, diaspora. I think they clearly have lost opportunity, and not only that, I think, it also has left a little bit of a uncomfortable feeling to industry analysts like me, because the whole of AGM, or at least majority of the AGM, was spent on what happened in the past and review for 33 years. The company is not in a stage where it can afford to spend time on reviewing the past laurels. It should focus more on a future. I would have loved to see some specific insights on what the new management would do. Rather, we had a CEO absent or CEO designate absent from AGM.
Okay, Mr. Moshe, I have a quick question for you. In terms of what lies ahead, you did speak about what are the challenges, by when we could see a turnaround. The sense that Mr. Murthy gave us, there are some initiatives already being put into place. From what you heard at the AGM, be it using technology using technology to be able to ensure employee performance, using technology over possibly some areas of human effort which were not required. What did you think about that bit? And also, there's an external consultant that will be assisting Mr. Sikka. What did you feel about those important points that Mr. Murthy made, and how relevant would those be to a turnaround?
I think these are very relevant. As I said, the list that I kind of highlighted are very critical to the success of every single IT services company. We're talking a lot of things right now in this conversation. Is it a good thing that the incoming CEO didn't come in and present and provide it and came out with a speech here? From my perspective, at this point, as I said, we know what this company needs to do. But as Bala and Mohan said, it's all about revenue growth. It's going to be a show-me story. I believe the incoming CEO still has to learn in terms of what needs to be done. I think this is very early days. I'm assuming the company is going to have an analyst day or an investor day sometime later this year. And this is where they will lay out the actual practical, realistic roadmap for this company to get there. So, I think the AGM is fine, but at this point, it's all about, getting it done. And I think it's very, very early days right now.
Okay, Moshe, two-word answer from you. We're running out of time. Tell us your expectations for FY15 dollar revenue growth for Infosys, as well as for next year. Do you think it can meet industry standards?
We have them growing at roughly 6-7% in fiscal year 2015. Next year, at this point, we're looking for a number close to about 8%. So at this point, we're not really giving credit to anything in terms of what the CEO can do for the company.
Okay, and same question to you, Ravi. Do you think next year the company, with a fresh, person there, fresh thinking, do you think the company can meet industry growth rate? And very quickly, on the dividend ratio payout and being increased to 40%.
All right. Firstly, industry growth rate. I think this year it will be very, very lucky if we see some improvement. Because I don't really think anything other than maybe possibly a big SAP outsourcing deals that Mr. Sikka can swing. Help swing. That's the only, I would say, early indicator that we can watch out for. As far as real revenue impact, that may not be significant. Even if you win a contract, that will only really kick in revenue next year. So, but I am really hopeful that they will accelerate revenue growth by next year, because as somebody had pointed out, I forget who in the panel, someone had pointed out earlier that I think Mr. Apte pointed out that aggression in the pricing, that's not been seen yet by Infosys. And I think with the new CEO, who is being tasked with this, I think we'd see more aggression in the marketplace. And I think that over next year, we will see them more than double their growth rate. So I'm looking at something between 14 to 16% for FY16.
And Ravi, quickly, one more answer. By when are you expecting a turnaround? Quickly.
In about 12 to 18 months, I think we should start seeing them get back to at least 2.5–3% kind of quarterly.
And that does seem to be the sense that most of our panelists are giving. All right, completely out of time. Thank you so much to all our panelists for speaking to us.